welcome to this week's segment of the Ripoff of the Week. My name is Adam Andrzejewski. I'm the founder and CEO of OpenTheBooks.com. We've got a great topic this week. We're going to tackle the all-time high in the headcount of federal lawyers, and they're making gobs of money, and we're going to lay out all the details that you need to know. But first of all, I just want to refresh our mission with you. Our mission at OpenTheBooks.com is to capture every dime online in real time. And it's extraordinary effort of our auditors. Last year, we filed 40,000 Freedom of Information Act requests. That was the most in American history. We captured nearly every dime taxed and spent at every level of government across the entire country, so you can follow the money, so you can hold the political class accountable for tax and spend decisions. Okay, I want to introduce my co-host today on the Ripoff of the Week segment. Her name is Tamara Colbert. Tamara Colbert.
It's okay. It's all good. Hey, Colbert, that has a ring to it, doesn't it? Adam, we are talking lawyers. That always gets the ire up of people. So how many federal lawyers are there, and what kind of a salary? How much do they really make?
Well, the federal lawyers make all in salary, bonus, benefits, and perquisites more than $200,000 apiece. And there's a lot of them. Their counts are at an all-time high, Tamara. There's 36,000 lawyers. And to put that in perspective, back in 2014, when we did this same report at OpenTheBooks.com, there was only 25,000 lawyers. So the lawyers, their headcounts, their positions, the growth has been on steroids.
So what are some of the agencies? I know our Forbes article talked about the various agencies that are hiring lawyers. Can you give us some of the maybe larger ones versus the smaller ones?
Well, I think most people feel that the lawyers at the federal level are employed by the Department of Justice, pursuing crime, criminals, and bad guys. And if you think that, that's only 1/3 of the story. They only employ 1 out of every 3 federal lawyers, incredibly. They're the agency that employs the most, over 11,000 lawyers over at the Department of Justice, but still, it's less than 1/3 of all lawyers in the federal lawyer corps. We even found, like, the National Foundation on the Arts and Humanities. They employ 8 lawyers. The Marine Mammal Commission even employs a lawyer for a basic salary of $166,000. And that's probably because dolphins and whales, the marine mammals, they probably have more rights than you and I, Tamara.
I think you're probably right about that. So tell me, how do these lawyers, we're talking lawyers, that always says regulation, and we know that President Trump was fairly successful in rolling back regulations. What is the perspective? What is the truth about Trump's regulation rollback while he was in office?
Well, Trump declared war on federal regulations. It was a signature promise of the campaign in 2016 to drain the swamp. And a part of that was rolling back regulations. And so you take a look at the pages published annually in the Federal Register. They published the regulations. And when Barack Obama left office, there was 97,000 pages, and it was an all-time high. To put that in perspective, when Ronald Reagan left office in 1988, there was 53,000 pages in the Federal Register. So not quite, but nearly a double by the time Obama leaves office. In 1 year, Trump rolled it back to 61,000 pages. They cut 36,000 pages of regulation in 1 year. Although he did add back some regulation, he did end at 87,000 pages, which was actually $10,000 pages less than when he took office.
So is there anything you can attribute to why the lawyers didn't go down, why lawyers kept increasing, even through President Trump's best efforts to truly drain the swamp?
Yes. So you'd think that as regulations come down, the head count of federal lawyers who enforce regulations would also come down. But we found that although the delta on the hiring of new lawyers was slowed during the Trump years, it continued to escalate, and here's why. We took a look at the legislation passed in the first 2 years of Donald Trump's administration, with House Speaker Republican Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, the Republican in charge of the Senate. And they passed a lot of legislation. They passed nearly 450 bills. It was the most legislation that had been passed since Nancy Pelosi was Speaker back in 2007, 8, and 9. In those years, they passed 460 bills. So with all that new legislation that came down the pike from the Republican Congress, the federal agencies had to continue hiring lawyers to implement the legislation.
So we know that during the Trump administration, there was the big Russia collusion situation and Robert Mueller. So we even know there were even more lawyers hired. Can you give us a status update about the lawyers on Robert Mueller's team and what they were making?
Well, Mueller's special counsel, they employed 13 lawyers for a cash compensation payroll of $2 million. And so Trump did face a $2 million payroll. And obviously, they didn't find much, that's for sure. Robert Mueller himself and 6 core of his investigators, they were partners in D.C. law firms. So they did take pay cuts. They were making $161,000 to spearhead that investigation. And spearheaded they did, right into about zero findings.
So what do you think is going to happen now with the new administration? Do you think this is going to grow, or do you think there is going to be a reduction in federal lawyers?
Well, look, if you take the federal lawyer corps, the 36,000 lawyers, and if you compare that up against the top 10 largest domestic law firms, so the biggest ones right here in America, and what you find is combined, the federal government headcount on lawyers exceeds the top 10 law firms. And it's going on steroids, Tamara, during a Biden administration. I mean, they want to pour $80 billion into the IRS alone. The IRS is going to hire a ton of lawyers. There's been so much fraud in the COVID aid relief bailout bills, just tons of fraud. Just on unemployment insurance alone, there's estimates up to $200 billion, the largest public frauds in the history of the country. You've got PPP. Just today, ProPublica did a study, I wish we found this one, that fake farms receive PPP money, and they're located like in beach towns where there are no farms. I mean, the fraud is out of control. So what you're going to have is an escalation, a rapid escalation in the number of federal lawyers. That infrastructure is going to be troubling because, as Ronald Reagan said, once these programs are in place, they're the best example of eternal life on earth. They never go away, Tamara.
Right. They never go away. You're exactly right. I mean, it seems like my husband was in law enforcement. It seems like if you wanted to investigate crime like fraud for PPP, you might want to hire some former real detectives or investigators. I know they're looking for opportunities too, and they probably wouldn't cost even a quarter of what these lawyers would cost in Washington. The swamp really is conducive to this lawyer or attorney environment, isn't it?
So really, Tamara, it all starts with transparency and read the bill. If Congress had not have passed, oftentimes on a bipartisan basis, these large, quote unquote, pandemic aid relief bills so quickly, but took the time to kick the tires to read the bill, maybe they wouldn't have pushed all of this easy money out the door where the con artists, the fraudsters, and the crime syndicates took control of it. So because they did that, now you're into a situation where we have to go after the bad guys. You have to lawyer up again, and it puts all that infrastructure in place, which is troubling.
So thank goodness Open the Books auditors are on the case for the American taxpayer. You are really doing the work that Congress has actually refused to do. This is the part of their role in Congress's oversight. So what do you want our viewers to do with openthebooks.com?
So come to our website at openthebooks.com. Across the masthead of the site is a petition tab. Click on it. We've got a petition to urge Congress to read the bill. It's been turned into Senate legislation by Florida U.S. Senator Tim Scott, Rick Scott in Florida. He turned it into legislation in the Senate, which would require the Senate to take a 72-hour timeout to read the bill, and every senator would have to sign an affidavit that they actually read it. It's good legislation. It was inspired by our petition, so help us bring the heat so Congress sees the light. Go to our website and sign the petition to urge Congress to read the bill.
And please, if you liked this segment, you support what Oversight openthebooks.com is doing, please take this segment, share it on your page, your social media page, and invite 5 of your friends to like us and watch these segments. We need your support. Unlike the fraudsters, Open the Books does not take any federal money. We survive off of amazing tax-paying patriots who support the oversight work that we're doing. You can stay tuned every Thursday, 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern, for another riveting ripoff of the week. Adam, we'll see you next week. It's going to be a good one.
Sounds good, Tamara. As Mario Puzo said in The Godfather, just remember that one lawyer can steal more money than 100 men with guns. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.